So very recently, British rapper, author, and podcaster ZUBY. Now, if you guys have ever seen ZUBY, this guy's bang on with every single thing he says. His observations are phenomenal. So he recently just came out with 21 observations that he's made during this pandemic about society and about human behavior. And I just wanted to kind of put a Canadian spin on it. I thought they were great, and I just wanted to talk about them in a little bit more detail because I think they're really important observations. Now, I know what you're gonna say when I go through these. You're gonna say, yeah, these are all common sense. I thought these, but nobody's actually formulated it into a big list like ZUBY did. And again, the guy is bang on 100% with what he does, but especially these 21 observations that he made during the pandemic. The first observation he touches on is that most people would rather be in the majority than be right. I think the only addition I would make to that is that the loud minority will actually do everything in their power to convince you they're the majority to go along with their ridiculous claims. They're so damn loud that they make themselves seem like the majority, and it just bullies everybody else into going along with whatever their narrative is and following along with it. It makes everybody terrified to actually speak out about the ridiculousness of what's happening around us right now. This government authoritarianism that's taking place. I mean, 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into a year and a half of still flattening the curve. We did vaccinations. So it started out vaccinations, now it's 2 shots. Now they're coming out with a booster for a new variant. What do you think that turns into? What's going to happen is we're going to get into a situation where the majority is saying, if you won't take the 12 vaccinations required for COVID now, you're a grandma killer. That's what they're going to say. If you don't take 12 vaccines to make me feel safe, you're an evil human being. That's what it's going to turn into. That's what they've pushed the envelope to at this point in time, is that that's just acceptable. You're the crazy person if you won't take multiple vaccines to make them feel safe when you're at almost zero risk of being harmed by the virus. Crazy, right? So the second bang-on observation that ZUBY makes is that at least 20% of the population has strong authoritarian tendencies which will emerge under the right conditions. And I think 20% is lowballing it. I mean, we saw this in Canada. Canadians lining up, begging by the millions for the government to take away their rights and freedoms, for the government to destroy businesses, for the government to harm society on a scale never seen before. And you're the evil one. You're the conspiracy theorist if you question it and you're not willing to go along with this authoritarianistic destruction of society. It's insane. People are begging for authoritarianism on a scale that I never thought was possible. It's happening. And it's definitely in Canada, it's definitely way more than 20%. People are begging for it in Canada. And again, you are the evil person if you're not okay with all your rights being violated. Third observation by ZUBY, fear of death is only rivaled by the fear of social disapproval. The latter could be stronger. When you look at what society's been pushed to, when you look at people's fear of judgment for questioning anything to do with what happened, when you look at how silent people have been, when you look at how people's lives have been destroyed for simply speaking out, I mean, it's absolute insanity, guys. Fourth observation by ZUBY, propaganda is just as effective in the modern day as it was 100 years ago. Access to limited information has not made the average person any wiser, and it hasn't. The only thing all of this access to information and social media has done is it's given propagandists more avenues to push their propaganda. You see the big monopoly that tech has on what the narrative is within society right now. Virtually every single thing I post, no matter how accurate it is, no matter if it's a peer-reviewed study, no matter how factual it is, has a COVID warning on it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what's happening. So the propaganda works. I'd even argue it's more effective today than it's ever been because, again, you now have access to the brains of billions of people online to push propaganda. Whereas before, I think you probably had to work a lot harder to push propaganda than you do today, right? I think it's easier with social media to jam propaganda down people's throats and to flip society in whatever direction you want them to go. Fifth observation by ZUBY, anything and everything can and will be politicized by the media, government, and those who trust them. 100%. They will use everything in their power to destroy what they view to be their opposition. I mean, we see it every time there's a gangster who shoots some innocent person with an illegal firearm, they come after licensed firearms owners and attack us. Everything is politicized. Every single thing that can be used will be used against you in the public sphere. There's no such thing as too low for these people. They will politicize everything. Sixth observation, many politicians and large corporations will gladly sacrifice human lives if it is conducive to their political and financial aspirations. 100% correct. We saw nothing but complete ignorance to the opioid overdose deaths happening. We saw nothing about all of the people dying because of hospital waits, because they couldn't get in. We saw nothing. COVID became the key narrative of everything to do in all of Canada, and it's terrible. It's terrible if people are dying from COVID. But guess what? There's a whole lot more stuff killing people. A whole lot more. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's taking that low-hanging fruit and preventing deaths in those areas. Why? Because they can't achieve their objectives by focusing on those things. Look at medical malpractice. Medical malpractice. 35,000 deaths in Canada every year because of medical malpractice. More than COVID. Don't hear a peep. You don't hear a peep. Why? Because it doesn't get them to their objective. It doesn't get them what they want to focus on something like that. COVID gets them to their objective. Seventh observation by ZUBY, most people believe the government acts in the best interests of the people, even many who are vocal critics of the government. The government never acts in the best interests of the people. Let's get that straight right now. Every single thing they do is in an effort to maintain power. They do not have your best interests in mind, ever, ever. They don't do anything. Even if something is positive for you that they do, it's because it's politically beneficial to them to do it. It's not because they care. They don't care about you. They don't care about society. All they care about is maintaining power. Even if it's the dumbest thing you could ever imagine, but somehow they've convinced themselves that it's important, they'll do it. They will completely screw society over. They will go against everything that the electorate wants because they think it's going to help them win. Because they don't care. They only care about maintaining power. That's it. Anybody who thinks otherwise is as naive as they come. Eighth observation by ZUBY. Once they have made up their mind, most people would rather commit to being wrong than admit they were wrong. Absolutely. That's just natural tendency in people. The worst part is, though, that as more information, as more peer-reviewed studies come out, people are still sticking to their guns on this stuff. They're sticking to their guns. Everybody, like, I've had people argue with me. I actually have a diagnosed heart condition. There are warnings coming out with vaccinations about heart issues that are caused by the vaccines, okay? In Ontario, just the other day, there were 2 people in the hospital, 0 people in the ICU, 8 people hospitalized because of heart complications due to the vaccine. Nobody's talking about it. They're still cramming it down our throats. I'm still an evil human being because I'm questioning the vaccine because I don't want to get it because of the risk to my life. No, I'm evil because somehow I'm a risk to somebody else's life because I don't have the vaccine, when all I'm trying to do is preserve my own health. That's it. Ninth observation by ZUBY, again, bang on. Humans can be trained and conditioned quickly and relatively easily to significantly alter their behaviors for better or worse. And I would say almost 100% of the time it's for worse. You look at what's happened to the Western world and how quickly it's happened. How quickly human behavior has changed and been manipulated by external forces. Let's say, I'm not going to go into conspiracy stuff. There's a lot of shit influencing society right now that is destructive to society. And when you look at the change in human behavior, just in the last 5 years, when you look at the changes to the meaning of words in our language to achieve a political goal, it's insane. The alteration of human behavior in the last 5 years, in the last 1.5 years because of COVID, is frightening. People are easily manipulated when they don't think for themselves. I mean, you've got a ton of people. They sit back and they say, trust the science, trust the scientists. Don't ask questions because the experts are telling us what we need to do, which is absolute insanity. You've just given them an open door to manipulate you any way that they see fit with whatever information they want to use. Fact of the matter is, all of the information is put out before us. All of it. It's there for us to interpret. It's already been interpreted by experts. I don't need layers of experts to interpret information from experts for me. I don't need that. I'm a free-thinking person. I can come to my own conclusion, but people don't do that. Number 10, when sufficiently frightened, most people will not only accept authoritarianism, but demand it. Yes, 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 yes. We saw that throughout Canada. People demanding that you allow your business and your life savings and your livelihood to be destroyed. People demanding that you stay in your house and don't go anywhere and don't socialize. People demanding that you get a vaccine that you don't want when you're no risk whatsoever to anybody and the virus is no risk whatsoever to you. People demanding that the government stomp on your rights and freedoms and you be okay with it. There are millions of people in Canada demanding authoritarianism every day of the week right now. And even getting out of this whole pandemic, they're still demanding that this stuff stays in place. Why? Because they've been sufficiently frightened. Number 11, people who are dismissed as conspiracy theorists are often well-researched and simply ahead of the mainstream narrative. Now, I just want to adjust that a little bit. There's conspiracy theorists who are crazy, but now the conspiracy theorist is the person who's taken all of the readily available information, drawn some reasonable conclusions, asked some reasonable questions, and just put that out into public. Hey, I've got questions. Hey, I'm curious about this. Hey, I noticed this. Hey, ivermectin has a significant reduction in negative outcomes for COVID. Why aren't we using it? You're a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy theorist. When you look at these studies on the vaccines and you start questioning the efficacy of these vaccines based on the studies performed, based on the limited information, you're a conspiracy theorist. So the term conspiracy theorist has changed significantly. It's no longer you need to believe in a flat earth to be a conspiracy theorist. If you simply question the government narrative right now, you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. Fact of the matter is, most of the people questioning the government are well researched right now. Number 12, most people value safety and security more than freedom and liberty, even if said safety is merely an illusion. And that's what we're dealing with. It's all an illusion. I mean, we already talked about Canadians demanding authoritarianism just to make themselves feel a little safer. There was a woman who bitched me out about questioning vaccines not long ago because her husband has some condition. She lives in another part of Canada, and she was accusing me of being evil because I'm questioning vaccines. She's demanding me in Alberta get a vaccine to keep her husband, who's on the other side of the country, safe. I mean, no longer is it acceptable to have the freedom to decide what gets injected into your body. There are millions of Canadians right now who, if the government said, we are going to require you to be vaccinated by law, they would cheer it on. They would be happy about that. More people are going to suffer through the destruction of freedom than through anything that happens during this pandemic. I'll tell you that right now. Number 13, hedonic adaptation occurs in both directions. And once inertia sets in, it is difficult to get people back to normal. As soon as people start changing their behavior, as soon as they start adapting to the stresses placed on them by government, it's really easy to keep that in motion once it's going there. Again, 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into a year and a half of destroying the country. We've got politicians who openly violate their own COVID requirements. They're caught on photo doing it, and people still think it makes sense that we're being required to have our lives and businesses and livelihoods and children's futures destroyed because of what's happening here. People will ignore the most insane facts, the most insane things in society. They will absolutely ignore these things because up here they've adapted to the pressures placed on them by the government, by society, the peer pressures, the crazy people who think I'm nuts for asking questions. They adapt to that, and it's just normal now. That's the whole concept of the Overton window and where it gets pushed. Hedonic adaptation. Overton window. Same thing. Number 14, a significant percent of people thoroughly enjoy being subjugated. 100% people cheered on. We've already talked about this. People love being forced to stay at home. People love watching their fellow Canadians' lives be destroyed. People will sit down and argue with me how important, the $500 billion worth of debt we accumulated in the last 5 years are, without even thinking about what impact it has to our children's futures. They don't care at all. They don't even think about it. These people are crazy. And again, all of this money we spend results in more subjugation. But guess what? They got a couple bucks out of it. They got some money out of it. They got to stay at home and relax. Or they weren't affected in any way, shape, or form by COVID, and they think because they're fine, the rest of society is fine, and nobody else suffered. Just sit back and enjoy it, guys. It's quiet. Yeah, your business is being destroyed. Yeah, your livelihood is being destroyed. Yeah, your children's future is being destroyed. But guess what? We get to sit back and be a little bit lazy for a while right now and just live off government cheese. Number 15, the science has evolved into a secular pseudo-religion for millions of people in the West. This religion has little to do with science itself. Not much has to be said about that. Everybody ignores the science and they say, the experts told us this, who we deem to be the experts, or who we've given the power to be the experts, have said X, Y, Z, therefore it's correct. Therefore it's what we need to do without even questioning it. It's cultish. There's no facts anymore. It's all trust the experts, whatever they say goes, don't think for yourself, and just do what the leaders say. That's a cult. That's cult mentality. Number 16, most people care more about looking like they're doing the right thing rather than actually doing the right thing. And to me, that is the most degrading part of society today. Nobody does what really matters. Nobody does what's beneficial to society. I mean, we see it throughout. All of these people who do something kind for somebody and then take a photo of themselves doing something kind and then post it because they want credit for being kind, they're not doing things because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because they want to appear to be doing the right thing. If you were truly doing the right thing, you wouldn't be seeking credit for the things you're doing. You would do it. Any time I donate money, I don't go out and say I donated money. I don't go out and say I helped people. Why? Because that's an ego problem. That's not the right thing to do. But that's what people do nowadays. Everything is a virtue signal. Every single thing is a virtue signal. So if they get a better result from the virtue signal than the actual action that they performed in benefit to society, they will go with the virtue signal before they will go what actually benefited society. That's how people are motivated today. That's how people operate today. They don't do what's right. They do what gets them SJW points. Number 17, politics, the media, science, and the healthcare industries are all corrupt to varying degrees. Scientists and doctors can be bought as easily as politicians. Anybody who doesn't think this is true is naive. They're in trouble in life. If they think all of these people, all of these organizations are honest, they're not. I mean, you look at it. You look at the doctors who are against firearms. Again, I mentioned it earlier. 35,000 medical malpractice deaths in Canada every single year. But you'll get a group of doctors who will focus on licensed firearms owners who harm 0 people, and they'll just zero in on that. Number 18, if you make people comfortable enough, they will not revolt. You can keep millions docile as you strip their rights by giving them money, food, and entertainment. Again, $500 billion in debt over the last 5 years. And the liberals are surging in the polls. Everybody is worried about the benefit now to money coming from debt and from deficits than they are about what that means to the future of our children, what that means in future taxes, what that means in downgrading the country's credit, what that means for interest, what that means for inflation, what that means to the destruction of wealth. They're sitting back comfortable. They're ignoring every single one of those things, not even paying attention to them, not realizing that every dollar we take from the government right now is actually going to cost us probably $10 in negative result in the future. We're going to probably have 10 times the negative influence on our economics based on what we're doing compared to what we actually receive from the government right now. And $500 billion, you think that's going to Canadians? You think that's going to taxpayers? How much of $500 billion do you think went into our pocket? Probably 100 billion. The rest of it is just gone. Every bit of it. And people are just lapping it up. People want it. People are demanding it. You're crazy. Families need this money. Every dollar a Canadian takes right now from the government that we don't need to take because we could have kept businesses running, we could have kept our economy running, is a dollar that my children, that your children, that their children are going to have to pay back. They are going to be subjugated through higher taxes. They are going to become the future tax slaves because of the actions of this generation. So keep that in mind. We are harming the future of our children. And it's like, it's so selfish. It's like, it's all for the immediate benefit without thinking of the situation we're putting these kids in. They're not going to own homes. Their wealth is going to be destroyed. Now, any dollar that I have saved that I could pass down to my children, by the time they get it, it's probably going to be worth half as much as it is right now. Number 19, modern people are overly complacent and lack vigilance when it comes to defending their own freedoms from government overreach. Yes, 100%. Nobody defends their freedoms right now. In fact, most people take the Constitution. So the government doesn't give us our rights. The Canadian Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, is in place as like ground rules for the government. We have all these rights. They're not granted to us by the government. These are ground rules that say, okay, we're kind of okay with these rules, but it's not because the government granted us those rights. It's kind of an agreement that says, you know what, under certain conditions, us the people will give you leeway. But no, that's not how people interpret it. Most people interpret the Charter of Rights and Freedoms right now in a way that gives the government the benefit of violating our rights and freedoms whenever they feel like it. People will argue that to the death right now. That based on Section 1, that based on Section 33, the government can do whatever they want, so shut up. And nobody defends their rights and freedoms. Nobody questions it. Nobody realizes Section 33, for example, the notwithstanding clause, once that's enacted, your government's gone authoritarian. They don't need Section 33 to violate your rights and freedoms. They just need to be an authoritarian government to do that. Any government who doesn't have Section 33 in their Constitution or in their Charter of Rights and Freedoms can enact something like Section 33 and just violate your rights whenever they feel like it. And Canadians sit back and lap it up. They want more. They think the government's being responsible by destroying your rights and freedoms. Number 20, it's easier to fool a person than to convince them that they have been fooled. You can show people fact upon fact upon fact, and they won't even like debate points with you. They'll just say, you're not an expert. You're not an epidemiologist. You're not a virologist. You don't know X, you don't know Y. Just for being a critical thinker, you're the enemy to these people. As soon as you demonstrate any level of critical thought, they're on the attack. You're evil. You're a conspiracy theorist. How dare you ask questions of these experts who are jamming this shit down our throats? Number 21 from ZUBY, this is kind of the bonus observation. Most people are fairly compassionate and have good intentions, which is good. As a result, most people deeply struggle to understand that some people, including our leaders, can have malicious or perverse intentions, which is bad. And that's true. Again, I don't think everybody who is pro-lockdown, who's jamming this vaccine down people's throats, I don't think they're all evil people. I think a lot of them are probably really good people who've been swept up in all this bullshit that's being jammed down everybody's throats. But that's the problem. That naivety is the destruction of the Western world. That's what's causing people to be docile. No, the government has our best interests in mind. These experts have our best interests in mind. They're just trying to help us, guys. How dare you? These people have committed their whole lives to what they do. They would not steer us in the wrong direction. The dumbest thing you can do is trust. The dumbest thing. I mean, it's okay. Once somebody's proven themselves, yeah, sure. Give them some trust. In what way, shape, or form has the government ever demonstrated that we can trust them? Look at the history. Look at what's happened in the past. Look at the power grabs. Nobody should be unconditionally trusted. Nobody. Especially government. Government. The people who have no accountability, no consequence. The people whose only objective is to maintain power, and they will do anything to society necessary to do that. Nobody should be unconditionally trusted. In fact, if anything, they've demonstrated over and over again that they will take advantage of us every single time they can, whether it be for financial benefit, whether it be for the benefit of pushing their narrative, whether it be for power. Those are the motivators, not the good of the people. That's why we need to be vigilant. Anyways, that was it. That was a Canadian spin on ZUBY's 21 observations. Again, I thought he did a bang up job. If you have a chance, go follow him. I'll tag him in this video. He's intelligent. This guy's smart. He's one of the great thinkers of our time right now, and he's totally underrated. Go check him out. Go check out his music. His music's great as well. I mean, he's a super talented guy. Thanks for checking in, guys. Thanks for listening to what I have to say. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate the support.